Hello, football fans. Larry Allen here at the KGAS Studios. And next to me, the man who has led the Bulldogs to 12 straight playoff appearances and has led us to 9 semifinal appearances in those 12 years. That's Scott Surrett, the head football coach and athletic director at Carthage High School. The Carthage portion of Pigskin Preview brought to you by Worthington Air Conditioning and Plumbing. Boy, what an atmosphere last Friday night. If you couldn't make it, I am so sorry. It was an electric atmosphere. There's no doubt about that up at Texarkana. And the Carthage Bulldogs, for the first time this year, they trailed. They trailed twice, but trailing 14-7 in the third quarter, scored 28 unanswered points to win it going away. Here's two stats that just really jump out at me. Pleasant Grove averaging 44 points per game. They got 14 against the Bulldogs, and they were averaging giving up 12, and the Bulldogs with 35. Scott, great atmosphere, big win.
Unbelievable atmosphere. You know, I never thought being in Texarkana at Texas High and thinking that would ever be an atmosphere at Pleasant Grove. And, you know, they were having hard times when I was there. And but anyway, they've done a great job, and, man, they blew it up. They blew it up like a state championship. I think so. You saw how many people were there and the electric atmosphere, but I thought our kids handled that well, and I think when we settled in, I think we got after them pretty good.
All right, I've got a couple of things I want to ask you about. Ty Keys Crawford was the only offensive lineman in his usual position. The other four you shifted around. So how'd that experiment work, and do you like it for the future?
Well, we do. We made, shift a little bit around here or there at center. They had a 330-pound nose guard, and and my coach Rodney Russell said, and my dad, everybody said, don't ever put a kid in a position that if you can help it, it's not a good position. And so we put the kid was their nose guard was 330, and big, strong kid. So we moved T in there at guard, and Davis had to sit out a week, concussion protocol, so we moved him to guard and moved T in there to center, and then we moved Kay Johnson over from right tackle to left guard, and then Carson Williams from left guard to right tackle, and we thought that gave us the best matchups going into the game, and obviously it worked out. We ran the ball very well, and we protected very well, other than a couple of times.
And now, what about for the future?
The future, I think you'll see us settle into that position. We may, Connor and T may switch in and out some, but they'll both definitely start, both of them starting, whether it's guard, center, and if it's a bigger nose, because Connor's actually been the offensive line of the week twice, so he's leading that group. And but if it's a bigger nose, 300-pound nose, and we'll put us a 300-pounder on him with T. And then if it's a smaller, quicker nose, we'll move Connor back to center. I think you'll see Connor starting at center this week.
All right, very good. All right, I have two young men I specifically want you to talk about. Cole Whitlock, as you mentioned at Chalk Talk, the very first time in your 12 years that the defensive MVP played less than half the ball game. Boy, it seemed like in the first half we were calling his name just about every other play.
Well, he was a missile. I'm telling you, it's the best game he's ever played, and I don't know if he'd have made that many tackles the second half because they wasn't getting to the safeties near as much, obviously. But he'd probably run around the 20 range, and because I don't think he missed a tackle, and he played phenomenal. And defensive staff, their grades, he says we don't care if he didn't even play a half, and he's our most valuable player. But he was we got to have him back, and hopefully he'll be back soon.
All right, now you just said something there that I had not heard you say before. So the defensive MVP is selected by the defensive staff, is that right?
Absolutely. They work with them and every day, and and I'm more on the offensive side, obviously, and so they grade them and look at them very hard with all the coaches' eyes, and then they'll kind of vote on it and say who y'all think is the most valuable player, because it's not always the one with the leading tackler, even though he was the leading tackler. It's the one that played the best, the technique or whatever. And he definitely played the best.
Jakevian Toole. Quan Brown went out, brought in Jakevian. And he played well, didn't he?
He played great. You know, he's a really good player. He was behind two really good players, in Owens and Brown, and you know, Brown went down with an ankle injury, and he came in and did what a senior is supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's got his talent, and he made the big play on fourth down. Bobo actually cleaned number 2 up, but it was Jakevian Toole. He had to break the tackle and made him push him wide from the inside position. So, but he made more than that. He made a lot. He made a few plays, or a lot of plays, and good player, great kid.
All right, let's talk about the district now, and specifically Van. Carthage, the only team 5-0, but Van's 4-1, Henderson 4-1, Kilgore 3-2, although they've lost their last 2. Palestine and Chapel Hill are both 2-3. So if you total that up, the district as a whole is 20-10 in their non-district ball games. So tell us about the Van Vandals.
Van, very well coached. Jared Moffitt, he is, people know him around the state because he does a great job coaching. You know, it's a great town for his kids. That's the reason he's there, and or he would have a big job in Dallas or something. But he does a phenomenal job, and kids play unbelievably hard. His son is the quarterback. He hadn't been the last 2 or 3 weeks because he re-injured his collarbone. And so don't know if he's going to play or not, you know. And so, but he's definitely he's a really good quarterback, and you know they have the most valuable player back from the defensive side from last year, number 8, and he's a heck of a player. He will disrupt. He will get after the passer, but he disrupts the run game. So we've got to control him, and he plays to our offensive left, and you know they have a linebacker back, number 15. It's very active. And then they've got a lot of their secondary back, starting with their safety, 14, and number 4, the corner, and 26 is strong safety. So they get a lot of them back on defense, and they shut us out the second half. So that's kind of what our motivation, you know, is. They got after us the second half last year, so maybe we can get after those guys a little bit better this year. And then offensively, if number 10, the quarterback's son, the coach's son, don't play at quarterback, then they have number 5. He's a really good athlete, and he's more of an athlete back there, and they do a lot more running the ball with him.
Okay.
They are spread. They'll do some read and maybe a little option stuff with him, but you know they got a good team. They're 4-1 and got beat by Gilmer, and you know I think the score wasn't. I thought it was a little closer than what the score indicated.
Do they go tempo any?
They do. They'll do. It'd be interesting to see what they do to us. They will slow it down, but they will go tempo. We'll see. You know, without their starting quarterback, we really don't know. We're ready for both and prepared for both. So we'll see what happens.
So you think there's a possibility, like Pleasant Grove last year, they could run it down to 5 or under on the play clock?
They could. You know. They could. You know, I think Pleasant Grove did it more than people thought this year. And, you know, they called them to the sideline a few times, especially the first half. You know, we had 8 possessions Friday night and scored 5 times. And and 4 of them was, you know, we got down in the red zone and we threw 4 incomplete passes from the 8. So that was really good play calling. But anyway, you know, so we felt like we should have scored 6 or 7 out of 8 possessions last week, and you know, and so hopefully we can clean that stuff up against Van and play a cleaner game.
Now you mentioned the word disrupt in describing number 8, so I've got to backtrack a little bit and get your comments on number 40 for Pleasant Grove, Landon Jackson. You know, Scott, when I think of the very best players that we played in your 13 years, you got to put, I think, Patrick Mahomes up at the top, and then Shipley from Brownwood comes in there. Jackson's he's something else, isn't he?
Yeah, he's the best we've ever coached against for his defensive player, for his the guy that disrupts the game in his position. They moved him positions this year from last. Last year it was easier to double him, and now he's outside. It's a little harder to double him when he's coming from the edge. And so I think that was their plan. And he got a couple of sacks, but I thought Montrell Smith did very well. You know, battling in there on him because, you know, Montrell, I said, how good is he? And he said, he's great. You know.
Montrell said that?
Oh, yeah. So they all did. I mean, everywhere he goes, they all know how good he is. And, you know, sometimes those 5 stars they miss on, but not too many. And not too when you're a 5-star rated by everybody in the country, and you've been offered by Alabama plus everybody else, Clemson, everybody else in the country, you're probably pretty good. And he's the real deal, put it that way. Great kid. I mean, we talked to him after. I coached his uncle. He was our right guard at Texas I. He was a really good player, and so I've known his uncle since he was probably 14 years old. So we talked about his uncle a little bit after the game and things last year too.
You talked to Jackson after the game?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He come over and talked. He's a great kid, and if we play him again, hopefully he's less mean next year, because he's a player now. He really is. He's the nicest guy you've ever seen. Besides, that's the perfect guys you want to coach. They're mean as can be for 4 seconds or whatever the play takes, but the nicest guy. He's slapping us, on the back of the helmet, shaking our hand after. Big Cat got after him a couple times. He shook his hand. Hey, great block, and I don't know if he's setting Big Cat up or just, but no, he's a great kid, great player.
In other words, someone that's not a disruptor on the team. I mean, he's got a good attitude.
No, he's got a phenomenal attitude. They'll all tell you that. Everybody talks, talks about him. So.
Okay, well, Scott, we've got to mention this and get your comments. We lost a great one this week. A husband, father, grandfather, great teacher, great coach, Dennis McLaughlin.
Great man. I met Coach McLaughlin. I still call him. We call him Mac. But in high school, he come and he coached at LK 1 year, and made a difference in my life. Made a great impression. And when I got the Carthage job, he's the guy that I kept, and I let them all go. And what I did was I made everybody if they wanted to stay, I made them all interview, because they had held everybody's contract, and he was coaching freshmen then, and I won't get into all that story, but I says, well, I remember how good a coach you were in high school, and a man, and how would you like to coach varsity? He said, that's what I want to do. And I said, all right, what do you want to coach? What's your ideal job? And he said, I want to coach running backs. I said, well, I already have one of those coming. No, how about wide receivers? He says, I had never coached wide receivers, but I'd love to do it. So it was such a fun ride. But, man, when you're talking about integrity, he had it. You're talking about a man that you want to be like, that he's the man, just for his positive attitude about everything. He made mistakes just like the rest of us do, but, he was always positive. Every day he'd come to work ready to go and couldn't wait. And, he'd be up there working out all the time himself and walking, and, just a great family man. And I'm telling you, when his grandkids were in, he would not answer his phone. You'd be lucky to get a text, Mike, everything okay? And he says, my grandkids are in. That's all you had to know. And he was not doing anything else. And playing coloring. He's talking about coloring or whatever. Taking them to zoos or all the time taking them to movies. I mean, just a phenomenal man. I could go on and on and on. We're going to miss him, and we've already missed him. He was my eyes upstairs for 12 years, and when he told me something, he said, Coach, we need to do this, 99.9% of the time it was right. And if it was wrong, he says, well, I was wrong. And I said, well, everybody's wrong, every now and then, Coach wrong. And he took it hard now. He was a perfectionist. But you can't get enough people like that and around you, and so he will be missed. I don't know, I could keep going on. I know I'm rambling, but love that man and love his family, and we're just praying for him, and God bless.
All right, well, final words about going into district play.
We're excited to be where we're at. We've got a couple injuries we're nursing, but they're not season ending, and so that's the good thing. We got everybody we started with. Pedro Garcia should be back. He's another kicker to be in the mix.
Okay.
And then, Trokel's back, and now we got to get Cole Whitlock right, and then Quan Brown. We thought, maybe it could be Achilles out for the year, but I think he's good. I think he's, he may be a week or two, but I think he's going to be good down the stretch, and we need depth. But we are where we want to be, 5-0, and nobody out for the year, and hopefully that trend can continue for his health and keep getting better. And just one other thing, our volleyball is 31-4, undefeated in district, and they're on the way to breaking the school record and making a lot of noise in the playoffs, hopefully. And Dawn Stewart and their staff's done a very good job or a great job, and we're excited to see how they finish.
I don't think I've ever been to Van Stadium, so what do you know about it?
About as much as you do. I've seen it on tape. But I've never been there. But I hear it's very, very nice, and it's kind of like ours. Matter of fact, I think I know they did. They come up and kind of designed theirs after ours a little bit. And I know there's some changes, there's differences, and don't see it as much as ours, but it's kind of like our stadium.
Well, if they designed theirs like ours, that means it's less than 12 years old.
It is. It's a newer stadium than ours, and same Hellas Construction did their turf and their whole stadium, so it's going to look a lot like ours, I think.
All right. Kickoff is 7:30 over at Van. If you can join us, starting district play. These are the games that count right here. And if you can't, we'll be on the air at 7 o'clock with a look at the starting lineups. For Coach Surratt, I'm Larry Allen. Have a great weekend, everyone.